Oh, good morning. So, Norm McNaughton here live from Comrie Farms, our home farm. Yesterday, those of you who were on the show, we did the dairy part where we produce our milk, the cows, and how we manage all that. Today, they've asked me to talk about our field crops. We also do field crops. We grow some crops that we sell, and we grow most of it, a good portion of it, for the cows to eat. So, just give me a sec. I'll flip this around and we'll get showing some stuff. Okay, let me see if I can make this like I like it. All right, outside the barn, what you see behind the barn, that green is alfalfa and grass. A big portion of our farm, if we went around the other side of the barn, is alfalfa and grass that we grow for the cows to eat. Right beside it is the corn crop we harvested. Right now, as far as our field crops are concerned, all our crops are harvested for the cows. So we're going to talk about combining corn a little bit later. I don't know if I can get that much, but when you look over there, as we took the corn crop off, we took the whole plant and processed it for the cows. What we have left standing over there is the corn we didn't need, and we're going to combine that, and that will go and be sold to the mill and used for many different products, from feeding cattle all the way through to ethanol and the gas that we use in our cars. So what I'll do is just try to slowly go around here outside the barn. What we see here is this big white plastic bag that we store corn silage in. So like I said, it's the whole plant. Let's bring that back. Okay. When we go over here, just for a sec, I'll show you. This is the outside of the barn. You can see the curtains that we talked about yesterday where the cows are inside. Out there's their pasture by the road so people can see them. This is the corn silage. That was last year's crop. It's all ground up into fine. We use a harvester to do that. And during the summer, we harvest that in September. During the summer, we harvest the hay. You see those three really tall structures in the background. Those are called silos. The big tall one, we have our haylage in it. We harvest the whole plant again, cut it fine, process it. And then the two smaller ones also have corn silage. We use the bag because we don't have enough room or storage for corn silage. So that gives us extra feed to feed the cows. Well, that's how we feed the cows. Those two main ingredients, corn and the alfalfa haylage, hay, carry a big portion of their diet. We work hard to get those crops off at the right time, maximum productivity. And we also work hard to make sure the plants are looked after, giving them the right fertilizers, putting back into the earth what we take away. So that way it's a continuous cycle. What we'll be doing in the next month now is finishing up some soybean harvest and starting out on the corn harvest. This is the truck we use to travel and take the corn to the mills where it'll be processed. The wagons we use. And we're moving up to this structure ahead of me, which is not a structure, it's a piece of machinery, but that's the combine. This is one of our tractors we use. Takes a lot of horsepower, not horses, but horsepower. These tractors, we need one to run the harvester to grind the feed up and chop it. We need another one to blow it all the way up into the air. That silo is, I was going to say it's 90 feet, 100 feet in the air, but I'm supposed to use meters. What's that, 30 meters or whatever? But anyway, it's a long climb when you go open it up. What we're looking at now is our combine, okay? I might, if I can do this right, show you just how big this piece of machinery is. I don't know if you can see me, but here I am at eye level, and I'm not anywhere close to where it is. Now, these pieces of machinery are not too tall that they can't go under things on the road, but they are massive. Here I am standing beside the tire at eye level. It just goes to show you the size of these pieces of equipment. What I'm going to try to demonstrate is what it does in the field, okay? When you look at this, if we go in and zoom in a little bit, these are called stripper bars and a gathering chain. So the corn, there will be all these rows of corn, and I back up, see the different rows on the combine, and they're all planted in rows. Stocks with me, so maybe we can kind of show it, because if it was running you would never hear me and it's too dangerous. Okay, so this would be a corn stalk standing there, and as the combine comes into it, it gets up into there. Then what happens is this: the cob is taken off the stalk and the stalk is left, and the cob ends up in there. All right, and after the cob's in there, the leaves are taken off, and in the machine we get to this part. As it feeds through, it goes up through here. That cab up there is where we drive and manage it. This is the main components, which is all covered up. I can't show you too much, but up top you can see that sticking out. That is what we call the bin, where the corn ends up going. But as it goes through here and goes through the sieves, concaves, and all these different things, it breaks the corn down. And what happens is the corn stalk, which is right here, is left standing in the field. The husks, which are on the cobs, are here. And then you can see the cobs. That is what is the corn stalks left sitting and still rooted in the ground. Everything else is thrown out by these spreaders. Okay, they distribute it, help it break down, and then there's an elevator in the combine that moves the corn up into the bin. And when the bin's full, it looks like that. That's a really nice sample, and it's ready to go to market. What we do, if I can show you, that is the hopper. This hopper arm extends out, and then we dump in those wagons over there. So just for fun, let's go in the combine and start it up. This is not a young man's game sometimes. Okay. Seats. Now, this combine is about 20 years old, so it still has lots of things and controls. Now, some of the newer ones have GPS. They have more data, more information. Now, let's hear what it sounds like. That there making noise is our crop monitor. The little sign there says we are in park, safety first, whenever you're sitting in a combine. If you can hear that, that's the combine starting up. All the sieves, it shakes in there, everything it takes to break the corn off the cob. And then our header that we call, I just engaged. See if I can get that. You can see how fast those work, pulling the corn stalks in, auger them into the combine. Now, this is a safety feature on all combines. When I get off the seat and go to leave the combine, it stops. It's no longer running. That's because it's way too dangerous to be anywhere down there near those. So we'll shut her down. That just gives you the noise and everything else that goes on that. Fairways down. One thing I'd like to mention is, and this is something that farmers always deal with, is these combines are large. They take up their half of the road. They don't move very fast, and we do have to go from farm to farm. And we appreciate the public when they understand that and slow down and let us get from farm to farm. I know we're not moving as fast as cars, but when we're harvesting, we will start, mid-morning and go till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. We put long days in. When it's time to harvest, you want to make sure it's going good. Okay, how much does it cost to buy a combine now these days? Sorry about that. I was turned off on the question thing. Combines cost $500,000, 500,000 or higher. I mean, it's the investment in combines and equipment is incredible. The tractors, we looked at 250,000. So that's one of the reasons we don't have all new stuff. We put our money into the robot and use that. So the other thing I could mention is we use the combine to harvest wheat and soybeans. So as opposed to the corn we have on the ground, when the soybeans get harvested, this is what's left. All right. And the soybeans end up in the bin just like the others. I got a question. Happens rotten corn. Okay, what happens if rotten corn? If the corn's not the proper size, the kernel, it goes out the back. What the combine does is it sifts through and keeps the good product and up, and we set it. It's our job to keep on top of it if we think we need to set it and make the sample a little cleaner. The second part is when it goes to the mill, they separate it again. So any corn that isn't up to grade gets graded right there. And for us, we get less money if we bring a bad product in. That's why we get back to it's so important that we harvest at the proper time. How many corns approximately do you produce for month of October in your farm? Corns, well, there's thousands of corn stalks in the farm. Okay, we grow about 150 acres of corn, so we'll be 5 or 6 days harvesting that. We'll bring off 200 to 300 ton of corn when we go to market with that, and then we sell it sometimes as soon as we take it off, sometimes throughout the year. I love questions. Will the cob husk get mulched into the field at some point? Yes, yes and no. It depends on the farming operation. What we do with our corn, when we take it off, the corn and husk sit there, they break down, so they biodegrade. What we do next year, because we want to save soil, be the best environmental farmers we can, we no-till soybeans in. So we put soybeans in between the old rows. And by the time we harvest the soybeans, the corn is all broken down and gone back into the soil. So it, as opposed to when I was a kid, everything was plowed, and we plowed, and you turn the dirt over, and then you watch it blow sometimes. Where now we try to conserve the soil a little better. We try to use no-till wherever we can and what makes sense, and we let the crops break down. It's a continuous cycle. If you look over there, you can see some more equipment. It's unfortunate right now, all our harvested equipment has been cleaned, greased, washed, and oiled, and put away for next year. Samantha wants to ask how many tractors you have. We have 5 tractors. A couple of them are a little bit old, as old as I am, but they work really well. But we have 3 main tractors that do most of our work. They're not new by any means, but they've been so well made, we maintain them. It's no different than cars. You have to change the oil, you have to look after them and do all the jobs. We require that many tractors to get our work done. How many farmers are there to help you harvest? Can cornfield and soybean fields? We do our own. And so my one sons help us. I have a cousin who likes to farm. He has a job off the farm, so he comes in when he's done work and helps us. So we do it ourselves. Farmers tend to do their own, unless the farming community is a tremendous community. If somebody has a health concern or a problem, people go and help them really quick. But everybody generally is set up to do their own, or they hire it done. There are people that do their own and work in the custom business, we call it. We have a lot of our planting is done by a custom operator. They come in with a great big air seeder and plant most of our crops. We only plant our alfalfa and our corn. And the reason for that is we only have time to do so many things in a day. So we focus on getting material or the crops needed to get the right feed for our cows. Just on a side note, that's a tank there that brings in the supplement for the cows. So when we try to give them a well-balanced diet, we have all our alfalfa hay, we have our corn, and then we balance it, and there's a pelleted feed in there that goes in. Cole wonders, how long would it take you to harvest corn from a whole field? It depends on the field. If the field's small, we can do the field in 1 day. If it's 100 acres, we're going to be 2 days, maybe 3. Now, the other thing that's really important to say is this combine, even though it might look pretty big, is small. They don't make them this size anymore almost. They're all bigger. So big combines can go in and do a really big field and cover a lot of ground in a day if we don't have a breakdown. We always say at the start of the day, hopefully we'll get this much done unless we have a breakdown. Then everything changes. You have to stop and fix. And you also have to be aware, we have to always be thinking in the back of our mind to be safe. Sometimes farmers have a bad habit of working too hard and not stopping and taking a break. And so it's important we don't push ourselves too much. We always say that day when it rains is a day to catch your breath and fix some things and take a break, because when the weather's right, everything, the wheels are moving, as everybody says. When did you start this farm, and do you get to go away on vacations? This farm, I'm the fifth generation, apologies. My boys are the sixth generation. We actually have a seventh just born this year. We do take vacations. We have to have, like, we try not to go away in the busy times with planting, harvest, and that. And so you try to get away when you can. And then the others have to do a little bit more. We have a girl comes out from the city and works for us a little bit and helps with the calves that we raise. So but we do get some time off, but I guess deep down we like to work, and that's why it works. Because if you don't put the effort in when it's needed, it's no different than being in school. When you have a test, if you don't study and work hard to learn stuff and pass the test, it's tough to move on. And it's the same in farming. We have to do a good job at the certain times of the year so we can move on to the next year and pay our bills and keep our head above water. We do it because we love it. That's part of it. And I think we need to remind people that we care. We care about the environment. We care about where we fit in and what we do. And we don't do things to harm things. We need the farm to keep going for other generations. And so we try to put back into the land and keep it healthy and usable for the next generation. The old saying is, you try to leave it better than you found it. I don't know if my feed will stay. We maybe look down in the shed. Yeah, we're still picking up here, so we'll just take a little bit of look. So the barns behind me where we have the cows, those barns down there are smaller cattle, the heifers. And then we have our workshop where we work on the equipment and store a little bit of stuff. And then this building here is our drive shed. Okay, that's where the combine sits overnight. We keep it out of the weather. It's full of hay right now. We had a tremendous hay crop this year. And so it's there. That's sitting in there is our skid steer, which has just been an amazing piece of equipment we purchased a few years ago. The things we can do with it that we no longer have to break our backs. I'm not the best farmer, buddy. I just do my job and work hard like everybody else. I'm not the best farmer by any means, but we try to get better all the time, and we try to learn. And we use science, we use technology, and we keep data and lots of records on what works and what doesn't work so we can make the best decisions going forward. And there's lots of us like me. I just happen to be the one on the video call today. But I'll thank you for your kind words and pass that on to other farmers. What's our most valuable piece of equipment? That's a really good question. I would not, well, we have to have the tractors. I mean, with the function, there's no doubt we have to have the tractors to drive most of the equipment. Our harvester for the hay and for the corn to produce the feed for the cows is pretty important. And then the combine's pretty important for us to harvest. There's a certain time when it's the right time to harvest a crop, and it's very important our equipment's ready to go. And we need to be ready to go to make that harvest so you get the benefit and the most out of what you are trying to grow. So I wouldn't call one piece of equipment. I think there's two or three, and that's what we focus on. I mean, people that run bigger operations also have the planters and that, and we don't do all of that. We hire some of that done, and that's because in the spring of the year we're busy starting to take hay off and do that, and there's only so many days in a year. Have extreme weather events ever impacted your operation? Well, before I was born, we had a tornado wipe everything out here, so that certainly affected the operation that year. But yeah, we've had hail, we've had some things. We consider ourselves very, very fortunate that we haven't had anything. I also believe we have dry years, but not incredibly dry. We live in a part of the country here, kind of in the middle of the Great Lakes, where we're very fortunate that eventually we do get some rain. So some years are drier than others. Some years are wetter. High winds always concern us. We had some corn that bent over a little bit, but we watch for stuff like that, and we look at different types or varieties of corn to grow that can withstand those things. And so those are the things you're always making a difference. But extreme weather is always in the back of our mind, and when a storm's coming, you just hope for the best all the way around for cattle, livestock, and humans. And unfortunately, we sometimes look at it in that order of the cattle, livestock, and humans, and we forget to put ourselves at the first part. But anyway, I don't know if you can see, my boys are really camera shy, but they just brought the trailer back. They were moving some cattle around down there, so they're unhooking it. And that's another piece of equipment we keep going here with our livestock operation. Let's ask you, do we add anything else to feed the cows? Yes. Minerals, okay, but it comes in a pelleted form. So they actually bring in sometimes a little bit of corn in that pellet, but they add a lot of minerals, byproducts like that, because we need to balance the ration. When you're feeding cows, it's no different than you'll get told you need a balanced diet. You have to have all the different food groups, and part of that, it's the same with a cow. And the big part of it is the minerals, is getting their calcium and all their different minerals, phosphorus and that at the right levels. So what we do is we sample all our crops when we take them off, and then we take those results from the samples, and we'll have different levels of protein, calcium, and all the different minerals and different parts that make up the crops. And then we break it down, and the cows need a certain amount of energy to keep themselves in good shape. They need a certain amount of protein level in the crops, and wherever we're lacking, we'll add some protein. Sometimes you take the soybean, which becomes a really good protein source, and that'll get added into our mix to make sure the cows get enough protein. There's been enough data and research now that they know what cows need so they can lead a healthy life. And so we need to make sure we provide that balanced diet for them. Where comes part of economics for us is if we can produce the best corn and hay that we can produce, we save money because we don't need to add as much to make that work. And that is a benefit we try to keep in mind at all times. So that gets back to that fact of having the right equipment, being prepared for the right time, adding the right components to the soil, whether it's fertilizer. At this farm here, we're part of the 4R program. And the 4R program is the right amount of the right product at the right time and in the right place. And it's very important we don't over fertilize. We can't afford to do it to start with, but any kind of mistakes in that is too hard on the soil. So we have a company and a couple of guys that work with us to make sure we're applying the right product at the right time in the right place and the right amount. And we consider that very important because we want to be a good, strong partner and having the right environment going forward. And the best part about this for me is my sons are really big on all that. So I'm just learning more all the time. It's great when you're learning when you're old. The kindergartner wants to know, do you need a driver's license for the tractor? No, not on the farm. We have to be 16 years of age. That's a really good question. I'm assuming you need a driver's license when you're on the road. I mean, I know you have to be 16 to be on the road. So, on the farm here with my sons, they learned to drive tractor at a very young age. They never, never, ever drove on the road. If we had to move to another farm, I did that or something. But as far as in the field, they started with some of the smaller equipment and they worked up. And the one thing that was wonderful when they went to get their license, handling a car was pretty easy after you handle some of the machinery. So, but it is important on the road that you have to be an adult and not a child. You can't have those things. And sometimes we have to stop in our day and make those changes. But once they're in the field, once they get old enough, I had a rule around the farm: nobody rides for free. So they start to learn different jobs and learn how to be responsible. And that's part of how we raised our family. And that's part of how we'll raise our next generation too. Cole wonders, how much hay would it take to fill the big silo? Well, that big silo, we put 70 acres in there. Well, it'd be twice, because then we ended up with a bunch of big bales. We can't, it was too dark in the shed, but we make great big bales of hay that are 4 feet by 7 feet, 4 feet, they're rectangle. So 4 by 4 by 7. We don't need all those bales. We need a few of them, but the ones we don't need, we will sell. And right now we're working on, we need to send some of those out west. It's been really dry out west, and some of our neighboring friends out there, or, farmers, they're not neighbors, but farmer friends need some feed. So we need to help them out. So we're looking at programs like that, and then we'll sell some. Some of that hay will go down into the US and some of the drier spots. So it is also, they call, the hay, when we grow corn and soybeans and some of the wheat, a cash crop. We just always joke that we don't always see that much cash. But it's a matter of making sure you watch your input costs and try to market it at the right time to become a positive. So it's a positive cash flow. And that's all part of being part economist and part financial wizard when you're farming. So we have a lot of responsibilities. We break it up. My one son handles a lot of the finances. I tend to do most of the machinery, driving and feeding the cows, and my other son does a lot of maintenance. So everybody has their role, and we're able to back each other up. What's my favorite aspect of farming? It changes. As what I mean is, we have different jobs at different times, so it never becomes monotonous. Right now we're into harvest, and we're looking forward to a good corn harvest. We've had a pretty good soybean harvest. We've got all the feed off for the cows, and then I look forward to the next phase of that. We get prepared for winter, and then that's what I probably love the most is we know we have things we have to do to make it all work. And so there's not really one little thing sometimes. I mean, I enjoy driving the combine. Then after 10 hours, you're like, okay, but it has to be done. So we keep going. But as far as one particular thing, I think it's the fact that it's a culmination of a bunch of things that really appeals to me. What is the biggest piece of advice you would give to a young person interested in getting involved in farming and agriculture? Most important thing is to work with the right people. Um, One thing for us here is we rely on a lot of different people, from a vet to a nutritionist to our banker to our accountant, who's very important. Like I mentioned before, the people we work with in the fertilizer business, we try to find the right people to work with, and they're out there. And because you can't learn, or you can learn, but you can't remember it all. And so we have to have people that we can call on and keep them, and so they can help us make our decisions and lead us to where we need to go and where we want to go if we're going to continue on. You can't assume anything. You have to be prepared for whatever's next, and it takes people. What they say, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a great number of people to make a farm run successfully, and the getting and working with those people is what makes a difference. See, I always go back to, I love looking at the cows. I guess that's probably my favorite thing is seeing how happy they are. Crystal wonders, why does combine harvester have spikes at the front of the truck? Okay, those spikes right there is to make sure the corn stalk goes. I'll show you. The corn, let me get this in here. The corn stands like this. So we need to make sure when we're driving that it goes in here. If it misses and goes over here, it doesn't get harvested. So there's all the rows in the field, and we have, when I back up, 6-row, this is called a 6-row harvester or combine. So it does 6 rows at a time. So those little pointy things make sure when we start in, we hit the rows right. That's all. It just turns the corn in and heads where it needs to go. The other thing about that is you need the guy planting it to do a good job. So it's all laid in 6 rows, the same amount. So it's all about timing. And when we drive these things, we're driving about, well, it's 3 mile an hour, 3.5 mile an hour. So what's that, 7 kilometers? I don't know. It's not, doesn't sound very fast, but when you're in there and driving and the corn's coming at you that fast, it's pretty fast. So you need those little things to make sure the rows go where they're supposed to. The other part of that is when you have some corn that's fallen down, it helps pick it up a little bit. So I guess that's our tour for the day. So thank you. Well, we appreciate taking the time and you taking the time to listen to me. Everybody needs to have a good day and stay healthy and eat healthy. And remember us farmers, we're there for you.